Hello, Commission Chair, Commission members, City staff, and members of the public. This is Alex Hamilton, Fire Chief, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come before you today to talk about our EMS core program and the Women in Fire initiative. And so, as a way of providing a little background, approximately 3 years ago, the Fire Department released a 5-year strategic plan. It's the first one we've had in quite some time, but sort of really gave us a roadmap of things that we want to accomplish over the next 5 years, and also sort of helps us all move in the same direction. And so, one of those goals was to focus on our people, not only the people that are currently working here in the agency, but also the folks that we want to bring in, the new employees. And so you can see there one of the goals was all around, or one of the strategies in goal 1 was all around diversity, equity, and inclusion, around recruitment. And so we've done a lot of work in that area of evaluating barriers to recruitment. We haven't conducted that cost-benefit analysis providing the EMT certification, but I'll talk a little bit more about how our EMT core program is going to really help with that analysis. And then looking at ways to change our recruitment strategy so we can really target the hiring of females and, more broadly, local Oxnard community members, people that grew up here in the community. So we have been working very hard in developing partnerships and relationships with other community organizations to improve our candidate pool. And as I'll talk about, we've also expanded our relationship with the local high school district, in addition to supporting existing programs that we had. So one of the things that we identified early, and this has been an ongoing issue for us because we've never really had a targeted recruitment strategy, because we've never had a hard time gaining recruits for a job in the fire service, but obviously without a targeted strategy, those recruits come from all over. Our females and our local community members often are underrepresented because of that lack of strategy. So this is where we really wanted to focus on that. And you can see there that on the tile on the left really speaks to part of our issue is that 70% of Oxnard residents are much more comfortable speaking in Spanish, or as Spanish speakers. Only 25% of our agency is Spanish speaking. So this is where we really identified that it's while we absolutely should have and need to have more female firefighters in our ranks, we also just need to have more local residents or community members that grew up here. So you can see here some of the local recruitment resources there, the EMS core program, which we'll talk about, the Oxnard High School District after school program we just initiated last year. We also have our local Fire Explorer post, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But some of the things, just to give you a broader overview, some of the things that we're doing some internal work, sort of building some foundational blocks within the agency already. So what does that mean? It means providing a specific fire service training on diversity, equity, inclusion, and the issues around that. Working with HR to create a streamlined investigation process if and when discipline issues do arise, so that things can be dealt with. The level of investigation meets the level of potential infraction, and then working with our different community stakeholders, and I can talk more about that in a second, and looking at how we can remove barriers to entry into the fire service. And so that's something that we're still working towards. Another thing is we're developing a professional development guide that will increase the requirements for promotion, and part of that will be telegraphing the importance and the value of inclusion and open-mindedness within our department. So really focusing on sort of improving off an already robust culture within the agency, and really making sure that we have a positive and inclusive and open-minded culture for new folks that want to come into the agency. So with that being said, let me switch gears a little bit to the Oxnard EMS core program. And so this is really, really fantastic opportunity for us because, like I said, it allows us to sort of conduct a cost-benefit evaluation of providing EMT certification to new recruits without the cost of having to provide that certification. So we applied for a grant back in 2023, December of last year. And so a really interesting program that was actually born, it was actually born in a prison up in Northern California, but it's essentially a workforce development grant. It's been running in Oakland for the last 10 years now. And it's taking young adults and giving them the tools that they need to succeed. So these are people that maybe weren't looking at going to college, maybe weren't going to end up becoming productive members of society. Taking those people under our wing and giving them really an opportunity. And so giving them some insight into the fire service and more broadly the healthcare industry. And so we saw this just as a fantastic opportunity for the city and for our agency. And so you can see there in February of this year, we're notified that we're one of the 11 training sites around California to be able to do this program. And that sort of set off a flurry of activity within our agency where we started grabbing partners and really building a broad coalition of folks to help implement this program. The grant is a county-wide grant, but we, the Oxnard Fire Department, are the lead agency for that. So, and the reality is, as I'm sure all of you are aware, that a quarter of Ventura County residents live here in Oxnard. So obviously Oxnard community members will play a big role in this program, but you can see there all the different partners that we have, community partners that are helping us with this program. And so, you know, including Vista Real will be using their campuses. Clinicus is going to help us with healthcare navigation. The Workforce Development Board is helping provide some other supports for us. Casa Pacifica is looking at providing some of the wraparound services that I'll talk about in a second. So really broad base of support. All of the fire agencies very much in support of this, as well as the EMS provider agency, AMR. So because it's potential employees for all of us. Let me talk a little bit more about this. So as I mentioned, this program was started up in Northern California. So the Public Works Alliance is sort of the umbrella group that created this EMS core program. And so they sort of act as the intermediary between us as one of the training sites and the Employment Development Department at the state level. So they sort of act as the go-between for us. And really provide us a lot of support in working with EDD. And so you can see here on this slide, there is a lot of information. I apologize for that, but I'll just sort of talk through it. So what this program does is it really allows us to take in sort of at-risk youth that have got some kind of barrier to entry when it comes to starting an EMT program. We're really starting out in a career field. And so you can see there on the bottom left, it talks about the eligibility. So there's an age requirement there, but then also some other kind of barrier to employment. So whether it's an adverse interaction with the justice system early on, whether it's coming from a broken home, youth parents, foster youth, there's a range of different reasons why these folks maybe haven't had the start in life that some of us were fortunate enough to have. And so we want to grab these individuals and we're going to give them a monthly stipend to attend school. And then the program is designed in such a way that you'll actually get twice as many hours as required to get an EMT certification. It's approximately a 160-hour program without the field training component. We're actually going to give them 380 hours of training. So more than twice as much training to really make sure they feel good and robust in their skills and come out and are able to pass a national register exam. That's sort of one of the qualifiers for us. And with that, we're going to also be able to provide them a range of different wraparound services you can see there on the right side. And so that's everything from legal assistance if they have had a negative interaction with the justice system. Our firefighters will be mentors to some of these folks. There'll be tutoring services. Vista Real will help them if they don't already have a high school diploma or equivalency. Vista Real is going to help them with that process. We are looking at them getting potentially college credits for their time in the EMT program. And then access to other forms of assistance if they need help with childcare, if they need help with transportation. There is a range of different things that are going to help with that program. Just getting back to the top left of this slide, this program, as I mentioned, started up in Oakland about 10 years ago. They've had about 500 youth go through the program. 100% of those folks that went through the program were employed at 6 months after graduating, which I think is just a phenomenal statistic. Another thing I'll just add is that 4 of those 500 people actually went on to become doctors. And so while this is obviously something that we're very excited about to bring local community members into the fire service, really EMT is sort of a stepping stone to a career in the healthcare industry, if that's the route that somebody wanted to take. And the reality is we hope to be able to provide them avenues for those levels of care, and potentially that's where Clinic House may even become an employment partner with us, as well as there may be opportunities to start down that road of potentially going on to becoming nurses or doctors, as you can see there in the slide. So really exciting program for us. Another thing that we just wanted to touch on is just last year we did our first Oxnard Union High School District after school program. And so after school is a little bit of a misnomer. We actually conducted this program on weekends, but we actually had 26 high school students come in, and they did 60 hours of it was 60 contact hours over 5 weekends. And they got to learn all the different facets of the fire service. They also spent some time looking at Oxnard College and the programs that Oxnard College offers to help with a career in the fire service, if that's the route they wanted to take. And the pictures here are from their graduation at Fire Station 1. And I can tell you, when they're all sort of sitting up there on stage, their parents were there. It was hard to tell how pleased they were with themselves. They all looked very nervous, but at the end and after graduation, you could really see how proud these students were of the work that they put in. And I really hope to see some of them in the future applying with the Oxnard Fire Department. So a great success first time out. We're looking forward to continuing this program in the coming years. And so just another sort of step along the way in meeting the goals of our strategic plan. And so the last thing I wanted to talk about today was the Women in Fire initiative. And so to sort of frame this conversation up, it's important to understand that the fire service nationally has not done a good job in recruiting female firefighters. It has been incredibly difficult, and it's incredibly challenging for every department in the country. And I can say that without hesitation. And so one of the things for us, so the national average of firefighters in the female firefighters in the United States is 6%. 6% of the firefighting force in the US is 6%. We are below that number. We currently have 2 female firefighters. And they have been fantastic advocates for the department and for bringing in more female firefighters. And so I go to them frequently for counsel and things that we need to do and how we can do things differently or better. But so one of the things that we are working on is building a much closer relationship with the Women's Fire Alliance. So there's the Women in Fire group. That's more of a national organization, more based on the East Coast, but still do work. They're having their conference actually here in Southern California in September that we will be attending. But the Women in Fire Alliance is a much more active local group here in Southern California. They do fantastic work. And so I've been fortunate enough to work with them. And so we've done a couple of statewide webinars for the League of California Cities, using some of the board members from WFA. And so they are very willing to support some of our initiatives. It was interesting, just in conversations, sometimes you learn things that you didn't even know you didn't know, which I know sounds funny, but one of the things we discovered was that there is actually a female cup for the structural protective equipment that our firefighters wear. I had never heard that before, and it was a little embarrassing to find that out. And so that was one of the early things that we were easy to be able to change and make sure that our female firefighters have appropriately fitted equipment for them. Everyone gets individually sized and fitted for their structural firefighting personal protective equipment. So honestly, it was a little bit odd that the vendor didn't offer that, but anyway, we've made that change. That's one of the little things that we're learning. And so WFA has been fantastic to help with best practices and policies. And so I've really been learning from them, and look forward to continuing that relationship. One of the things we are looking to establish here, hopefully towards the end of the summer, certainly towards the end of this year, is a girls' fire empowerment camp where we just spend a weekend where we bring in young females that may be interested in the fire service and just give them a brief exposure to the entire fire service. So it's just a weekend, but they will actually get to handle hose, see a little bit of live fire, feel the weight of the various equipment that we wear, that we use, but also that there's careers in the fire service, not just being a firefighter. And so WFA is willing to help us out in providing more female firefighter mentors for that program. But we will be doing a lot of it in-house. We are looking to also, as a part of that empowerment camp, is also highlight female-owned businesses within the city, whether it's where we purchase our lunches from or things like that. So really excited about that program. That should be coming soon. And then longer term, the last tile there is rebuilding our fire stations to be able to host a diverse workforce. So 5 of our 8 stations, you still live behind a curtain, sleep behind a curtain in a common area, and that's just not adequate for a modern fire department. When you talk about diversifying your workforce, every fire agency, certainly in this state, is working on improving those kinds of things, because it isn't just about money. It is a lot about the culture. It is a lot about what is the living situation in the stations. And so some of these initiatives can't be successful if we have as potential female firefighters visit our various stations, which happens a lot when people are looking to get hired by the department. They will go and visit the various stations and meet and talk with the firefighters. They're going to look at some of our facilities and say, I don't know that this is the place I want to work. So this is something that we're working on. We've had strong support from the public, from the city council on doing this. And so we currently are working on designs for stations 2, 3, and 4. All of those stations need to be expanded. They're all at least 50 years old, if not older. And so they all need to be expanded to house more equipment and more firefighting personnel. But we also need to improve those facilities so that they're better for our future workforce. So there is a lot, as you can see, going on. There's probably other things that I haven't mentioned within this presentation, but I tried to give as much information as I could in the short amount of time I've had. I really look forward to further discussion with the commission members or any questions that anyone might have. And I really appreciate, again, the time today. Thank you.